What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Chris, man. We are here at the Work Hard, Play Harder podcast. It is Sunday, November 10th, 2024. Just wanted to hop on here. My name is Chris Drummond. I'm a freelance sports reporter based out of Minnesota here. I'm also in sales and proprietor of this podcast, Work Hard, Play Harder, where I like to bring individuals on to talk about their why and get to know them outside of their occupation. I got a special guest that's coming on with me today. She is an adjunct professor at DePaul University. She's a lead reporter journalist out of NBC6 in Chicago, Illinois, the place where I was born. Her name is Natalie Martinez, and we are going to talk to her about her why of getting into the journalism industry and get to know her a little bit outside of that. I'm a journalist as well, so it's always a pleasure talking with other journalists. So without any further ado, I introduce to you the wonderful, talented, and the beautiful Natalie Martinez. Hello there. How we doing, Natalie? How you doing? Uh-oh. I can't hear you. Oh, that's why. Okay. Got you. Got you. Oh, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Got you.
Now, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now. How you
Okay,
doing?
I guess I'm going to have to wear these and I'm going to hear you here. How's it
Okay.
going?
That's going good. It's going good. Just want to say thank you for coming on to my podcast, Work Hard, Play Harder. You look absolutely lovely tonight. Just want to say that as
Yes.
well.
That's
Yeah.
what a lot of HD makeup will do. So thank you.
You know what? I'm not even gonna touch that. But we good. I love it. I
Right.
love it. I love it. I want to reiterate to you why I wanted to
Sure.
have you on here. I see
Yeah.
we matched it with the green. I got green on, you got green on. So it's pretty cool. I like that.
Great minds, as they say, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, no doubt. So I know that you're a lead reporter out of Chicago. That's where I was born, in Chicago. So I have a lot of ties there, a lot of love there. I'm a journalist out here in Minnesota. I'm freelance now, but prior to me making the decision to go freelance, I worked in a couple different publications, one in Atlanta, and one here in Minnesota as well for the past 6 years, combination of 6 years. So this is year 7 of mine. I know you're an adjunct professor at DePaul as well. I know you're a SUNY graduate at Buffalo as well. And I know you have a plethora of experience being in this journalism field. I know you are NAHJ member, National Association of Hispanic Journalists. I'm
A leader.
NABJ as
I
well.
know.
So I love the fact that we have a lot of connections going on here. And I just love listening to different stories of journalists and their why, because it's a
Same.
rarity that we get to sit here and have these type of conversations. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your journey and your story. And I always start off, Natalie, with this first question, which is, what is your why? Why do you do what you do in the industry that we both love? Did it happen to fall into your lap like how some people have said on this platform? Did you always want to do this? Did you have any role models or inspirations growing up? But what is ultimately your why of being in the journalism business?
At its most fundamental
Mhm.
base for that
Mhm.
answer is curiosity. And now that this has changed decades later from where I
Mhm.
started with my why, and I can tell you that story briefly if you'd like it. But the why now is much different. And right now, I would say my why is because we need it. We need journalism, and we need. I'm I would say media if I didn't think that also, included social media. I think we need journalists who are vetting information and then giving it to you. I think I love having podcasts. I love all these different ways of grabbing information, but I think that when we consume that info, it's got to also come from a credible source sometimes, because you can put anything out there, right? And a lot of people do, but I think my why is much different, and it has evolved just as the business has
Sure.
over the course of 20 plus years. That is, if you want to hear how I got into it, that journey began
Oh
with
yeah.
I went to school. I was at SUNY Buffalo, as you said, and I I was dating a man who's just a little bit older than me, but his brother, he was the youngest of nine. His
Hmm.
brother was the lead photographer at the ABC affiliate there. So with an Irish Catholic family that this man was from, I ended up going to a lot of family events. And at those family events, I found myself cornering Ed, his brother, every single time and asking him,
Okay.
"What'd you do today? Who were you talking to? Really? Did they say this? Did you ask this?" "No, I'm a
Right.
photographer." "Who are you with? What reporter? What did they say?" "Well, how does that, make a difference in our lives? What did you learn? Were you at City Hall?" And then at the time, and still to this day, my father's a dentist, and he wanted me and the other and his other children who came after me to
Do
be
the
a
same.
dentist. And
Yep.
I realized after a couple of years that I could not put my hands in somebody else's mouth, that I was a little bit afraid of blood, certainly of puncturing somebody else. And I did not want to
That's
do
funny.
that. And I said, "Well, you got three other kids that could probably do it. I think I'm going to get into this."
Okay.
So I had done some pre-med classes, but I was in my junior year. I decided to change it all over. Our sports guys are finishing up over here. Um,
You see that?
and I decided to follow to scratch that itch and to follow that. It wasn't a dream at that time. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I couldn't be a dentist. And I knew that I had a natural curiosity and I had to feed that somehow if I were going to be happy with what I'm doing. And here we are 20 plus years later, and actually just at this station. Um, and then, and that's how it started. But there was so much in that whole process of getting, my first job and things like that. And I'll wait for you to ask that. But that was kind of the why, and that was kind of like the step into the business. It was really organic, and I never dreamt of going out and hustling in the streets and trying to, make this happen, make that happen. You got 4 minutes to do this. You got 3 minutes to make it. We're going to count down to this. And the on air was never that important either.
Hmm.
It became more important as I went from my first job in radio to TV. Radio is a blast. Radio is so much fun, and
Absolutely.
it's so
Yes.
immediate, right? Top
Hmm.
and bottom of every hour. You're producing all the shows. You're going in a baseball hat. Um, this is a whole different thing, but it's so much fun, and it's still a challenge. So I know I'm in the right place because it's still a challenge, and I'm helping with our pipeline to DePaul University and helping younger people get into the business and eventually take my place.
I love it. I love it. And listen, there's nothing wrong with this. Nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, so please.
Okay,
Okay, no
thanks.
doubt about that. Hey, I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it. That's for sure. For sure. But that's awesome. I love the why. I love the why of starting out doing that. And listen, 20 plus years. Obviously, you are doing something right, and you're doing phenomenal things within this industry and paying it forward. Being an adjunct professor, giving it to the younger generation. That's awesome to hear. You talked about it. You mentioned SUNY Buffalo. Were there any other schools that could have persuaded you from going to SUNY Buffalo?
Persuaded me to say it one more time,
Like
that could have persuaded.
yeah, persuaded you from going to SUNY Buffalo. Like you, because you
Oh,
have went to another school.
yeah. In fact, I got accepted to other schools. I got accepted to schools in Colorado,
Mm.
pretty much all over the map. But my dad was there. I didn't meet my dad till I was a teenager, and part
Wow.
of his deal was, yeah, very unconventional upbringing. That's for a different podcast. But it was also a bit of my my drive and my push to make sure I made things happen for myself and I wasn't reliant on somebody else. And it was kind of wild, but my dad said he wanted to make up for some lost time, I think is what it came down to. And he said, well, if you go to this school, to a SUNY school that's near me, where I got to know him better, then he said, I'll pay for this much. I ended up getting an academic scholarship toward the beginning in those first couple of years. He said, if you do that, then I'll help pay. Well, once I found out how much different schools were across the nation, I said,
Absolutely.
well, my
Yeah.
scholarship isn't paying for that much. So I knew the value of a dollar. I've been working since I was 16 doing something.
Right.
Um, and, work hard, play harder. So I needed to work hard in order to get where I wanted to go. And yeah, and UB allowed me to study in London as well for a good long semester. Best year of my life, I got to say. I truly, and I even tell my students, if you have any interest in studying overseas or going overseas, do it when you're
Mhm.
in college, when you don't have a problem carrying a backpack and waking up in a different country every day, because that is the most, financially speaking, you can't do it as much. You're also, as an adult, I have to buy my time off. You only get
Sure.
3 weeks in a lot of first jobs. I'm only up to 5, and and having been here for 22 years, no complaints there. I love, you know, that, but we as Americans, we don't get as much vacation time. So I always tell my students, if that is
Absolutely.
even a small interest in your large body of work, then try to study overseas. Best year of my life. Yeah, really get to know everyone um, uh, around me better, different cultures. I think that's extremely important. But I'm kind of getting lost in that. But yes, University of North London was the other place that I went, and taking classes there that
Mhm.
helped me grow. I took a fascism and socialism class just to see how our government and how our history is kind of viewed. I took a journalism class, of course, and my journalism
Sure.
teacher and I were like this in a very healthy way. He gave me an A at the end of this at University of North London, but he would tell me, and this would be in front of the other students, well, in America, you guys, you don't pick a side. You really, essentially, that's what he was telling me. And I said, no, we don't.
Mhm.
We're telling
Okay.
everybody's story, so you, the viewer, can decide which story you want to go along with, if any of them,
Right.
right?
Right.
And we tell 2 or 3 or 4 stories, depending on how many sides there are to every story, because usually there aren't just two, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, he and I were like this, but I got an A, and it was really eye-opening too. In addition to those history classes, to see
I can
how
imagine.
Americans teach a class versus how they do overseas.
Right. We've been trained to be unbiased. So we've been trained to be that way, to tell all sides over here in America, right? Tell all
Hmm.
sides, to be unbiased, and that's the way journalists are supposed to be.
Seek the truth and report it, right?
That's it.
Like from
That's it.
Society of Professional Journalists, I always tell my students, with the four rules: seek the truth and report it, minimize harm, basically showing compassion to people, act independently, make sure that you're not there's no conflict, and be accountable and transparent, the biggie,
Yeah.
right? Which is
That's
another
the
back
big
to
one.
the why, right?
Yep. Absolutely. That's the biggest one that I definitely keep in my mind. Be accountable and be transparent for sure.
Amen.
I want to talk to you about your first job, and because you said you've been there for quite some time at NBC6, if I'm not mistaken, that's what it is.
NBC5, yes.
NBC5. I'm sorry
We
about
have to
that.
make sure we plug away as
Yes,
well.
absolutely. Thank you
NBC5
for that.
Chicago.
Yes, thank you so much. So I know you've been there for quite some time, but talk to me about some of your first few jobs that you've had and some of the skills that you learned at those jobs that you've now brought with you now to NBC5.
Yeah, I think that well, some of the skills that I learned, you basically, I learned to do everything. And
Okay.
somebody told me in my first job, or maybe it was even somewhere early on, told me, see a hole, fill it. And I did that with my first internship, which was at that ABC station where Ed was the lead photographer. I think that I learned really hard to do the work. Don't expect a handout. Don't expect somebody to do it for you. And I also learned to kind of enjoy the journey, because then once it becomes not enjoyable, then it truly is work. And the less it feels like work, and the more it's just like, I really want to get to the bottom of this, or I really want to help this person out, or I really want this person to um, find who is responsible for this, whatever it was. I think that I learned all of those things by one, getting internships. I got an internship. I actually got busted. You want a funny?
Talk to me.
I
Talk to
had
me.
at the time it was really just because I'm 100 years old now. So it was really just ABC, NBC, and CBS, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I got an internship at all three stations, which apparently nobody told me, but it was against the rules. And I said, well, what am I going to do? Take like secret, information from one station to the next? They were,
Right.
all pretty much run the same way. But apparently they found out after a couple of months that I had internships at all three. I knew enough, and I'm not sure how, but I knew I got to get my hands in everything to know how this is run, what makes them tick, what makes it work. And then I became I got myself an internship at all three. I recommend to my students, to everybody else who's serious about it, get an internship. I also talk to them about NEHJ, NAJL, and LGJA, AAJA, NABJ, all of those. I tell them,
Sure.
go to those. We'll talk about that, I'm sure.
Yep.
I think that, the things I learned is really just to hustle, make it. I do it now, out on the street, make it happen. Don't waste time. Right now it's part of my dinner break, but it's also, time for me to get ready for the next show. But since we're going on late for football, I'm able to, sit down with you, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on something I'm supposed to be doing, but I use my time wisely. But
Mm.
to your point, work hard, play harder, right? I mean, work hard,
Right.
play. When I'm working, I'm working. I'm not going to do it, 50%. I'm doing it 100 or 150%. And I think you're the
Right.
same way. You don't, what's the point of being there if you're just going to bring half your game, right?
Right.
So and we're about it, we're in a business, but it's a business of people and telling stories, right? So if
Yep.
that's what we're dealing with, we have to bring our whole game. We have to bring our whole selves, your whole mind. You have to open your heart and your mind to every story that we cover, right? Whether I'm anchoring a show and telling those stories, or just focused on one story several times a day, several hits a day. So the things I learned, besides the hustling, is just do the work, try every avenue possible. And like I said, those internships that I did, so I got busted, they made me choose one. I guess, do news directors talk about interns? I don't know, maybe back in the day they did. We're like, we got this
They
intern,
did.
Natalie. But I did choose one. I stayed with the ABC affiliate where my boyfriend's brother was, and I became a glorified intern. It was somewhere around that time that somebody told me, see a hole, fill it. And that's exactly what
Okay.
I did. So I got myself involved, although the health department didn't interest me. They had a health reporter.
Mm-hmm.
They needed a producer. So I became that producer as an intern.
Okay. I like
When my
it.
internship was over, they had to hire somebody. So you talk about great recommendations. At that time, recommendations were everything. I had recommendations from everybody on that staff. And that news director was like, you hire this girl right away, whoever you are. I just copied it off because I saw they needed that job. And then they literally had to hire somebody afterward because I did it to the nth degree. I was like, I'm doing this job. I'm going to do it 150%. And now you
Mhm.
better hire somebody afterwards. It wasn't me that
I
they
love
hired.
it.
They got somebody with a little more experience, but I set the template for how their health department basically.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I really do. I love that story. I appreciate that transparency of sharing that with me. I really do. I want to ask you some favorite questions, Natalie. Okay.
Favorite questions.
Yep, that's right. So I want you to give me the 411 off the rip based upon these favorite questions. Are you with me?
I'm with you.
Okay, here we go. First question is favorite meal you like to cook?
Favorite meal. Oh, I've seen this on some of your others. Okay, I have a 6-year-old. So it is whatever she wants, and then I'll put my own little spin on it. easiest meals that also can be set aside for meal prep are lasagna, of all things. I have no Italians in my family. It's just that I make it really well. Coach will tell you, who just came by here, I make a mean lasagna, and it's really meaty and really cheesy. But my, my
Mm.
for health reasons, I think it's really easy and healthy, and it reminds me of my Ukrainian grandmother to make borscht, which is beet soup. Just because I also like everything in it for health reasons, and it's just easy to reheat. But truly and ultimately, it is what my 6-year-old wants, what
That is
she's in the
awesome.
mood for.
That's awesome. I like that. And listen, the fact that she loves lasagna
Yeah.
is already something that's a beautiful thing. So I love
And
to hear.
you? I take it you're
Oh,
a lasagna lover too?
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Lasagna, but I'm not much of a cook. As you know, us reporters, we're on the go quite a bit,
Off your
especially
knees.
sports, right? Especially sports reporters. We work
Yeah.
nights and weekends. So for the most part, even though I am freelance now, but I had a nice, full 6 year stretch where I've had a routine. Tacos, what would I make fast? Spaghetti.
Spaghetti.
Um, different chicken, different things like I can whip up super fast. So yeah,
Yeah.
those.
That's the key, right? With some protein.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely get
Yeah.
some protein in your system, get some greens in your system, stuff
Yes.
like that. I love that. Favorite concert, Natalie, that you ever been?
Oh my gosh. Favorite one? Okay. Well, okay. I went to the first Lollapalooza at Molson Beer Garden in Canada, which was nuts. I didn't know what I was getting into. I ended up covering one a few years later where Blink 182, I think it was, at the place on
Mm-hmm.
fire in Woodstock. Yeah, that was
Mm-hmm.
like my first coverage at my first TV job. Uh, but favorite, oh man, ready? This is how old I am. I am I am Aerosmith and Run DMC old
Okay.
in one
Okay.
concert. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Listen, and listen.
That was
First of all, let me cut you off. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I got to cut you off. Okay, we're not going to use the word old on here. Okay, on the work hard play on the
okay.
podcast, we're going to use mature. That's what we're going
Mature,
to use.
experienced.
Experienced,
Okay.
mature. Okay, because listen, there's nothing old that looks about you. Now you may feel that way sometimes in the morning when you get up or whatever or
Yeah.
go to sleep, but we're gonna say experienced and mature. And besides, Aerosmith and Run DMC, Walk This Way, that's a classic. That's classic stuff. That's good
Well, that's
music.
what I'm saying. It's
Yes,
classic, right?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm with
But
you on.
truly, what about you? You must tell me real quick before we go on. I need to know.
Oh yeah, sure. For me, my favorite concert, man, Alicia Keys. I'll just throw that out there.
Oh,
Alicia Keys.
yes.
I'm a huge R&B person, so I love R&B. I do like rap as well, but I also have an old soul. I'm
Yeah.
somebody that can listen to Marvin Gaye, Ray Charles, but I can also listen to some Kendrick Lamar. So I'm definitely like all over the place for sure with my music. Listening to it. Um,
I wish I would have seen Prince.
mm, me too.
My mom
Me
saw the time in Omaha, Nebraska, and I'll never forget that. I just wish I had missed out some Sheila E. or something like that. So that would have been my favorite, I imagine, if I had seen him. What a shame.
Absolutely, absolutely. Got a chance to tour his place out here in
Yeah,
Minnesota. Yeah, Paisley Park.
sure.
They have it here in Minnesota, so I got a
Yep.
chance to be able to tour that a little bit. So that was pretty cool. Pretty cool to
Lake
see.
Minnetonka.
Yes,
And that's
absolutely,
also, I'm sure there's something along there. Yeah.
absolutely. Favorite place you've ever traveled to?
Oh, that's easy. That's where I met my husband 23 years ago, Turks and Caicos. And now it's a
Amen.
huge, yeah. British West Indies was not on my bingo card that many years ago. It was an intern who actually brought it up to my attention, and it was much more affordable. Let's just say that. So we hadn't gone back until our 11-year anniversary last year, but we're going to do it again this year. We learned how to find some good flights, and it is it means so many different things to me. That's where my husband taught me to sail when I first met him when we were just kids in our 20s. And it was my first 4 days off in a row here after I had been here for a year here in NBC5 Chicago. And he was a sailing instructor. He's Brazilian. He was at the Club Med there. He taught me how to sail. And our daughter, 6-year-old daughter's name is Sailor. So there are so many things, and it looks like a movie. It is no filter, gorgeous, turquoise waters, clear, no buildings over it. Well, now the Ritz is there, but just beautiful, wonderful people. And yeah, I'm like closing my eyes. We're going in January. That's for our let's see, 24 years ago we met, and then 12 years ago we got married. So yeah, that would be my favorite.
I love it. I really
what
do.
About,
that's amazing.
but if realistically, hold on, we have to answer this in two parts. Favorite place to go. If it's a weekly thing, if I can do it here in Chicago, I would say I really like to go to my yoga class. That's the only place I turn my phone off for 1 solid hour. I don't even do that when I'm sleeping. Okay, now you.
Okay. Well, if you would have asked me a week ago, or
okay.
I would say 2.5 weeks ago. Sorry, 2.5. I would have said Cabo San Lucas because I went there on a vacation trip with some friends, had a good time.
Yep.
Can't really tell you all of what happened because I really don't remember all of what happened, but I had a pretty good time. I did.
Okay.
However, it changed my mind. It changed my perspective a little bit because I just got back from a cruise, a family cruise, and now Cayman Islands is my next favorite place.
Okay.
Love the Cayman Islands, and it's funny you said Turks and Caicos because my next cruise. I was just talking to my travel agent. My next cruise is actually going to be going through Turks and Caicos that I'm planning on going to. So we're getting the final as far as the financials set on what the package would be. But I definitely want to go to Turks and Caicos as well.
When are you thinking about this? What month?
September.
You let me know. I want to hear reports, or just send me. You know what? Don't even send me a report. Just send me a picture. Just text me a picture, and I'll know.
I promise you, I will. I will hit you up with everything and anything when it comes to that trip. No question about it.
Oh, I'm so excited for you.
Thank you so much, Natalie. I appreciate that.
Yes.
So I'm a sports person, so I gotta ask a sports question. So here we go. Favorite sport you like to watch on TV? Favorite sport you like to attend in person? They could be the same sport.
It can be.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite sport I like to watch on TV, I think is probably gymnastics because I was a gymnast at one point. And if you count ballet as a sport, then I would say that first, but I think most people don't. So probably gymnastics. And I would love to see Simone Biles in person or any of those wonderful gymnasts that we have. Oh my goodness.
She's great.
Because as I understand, because we are the Olympic station and our the gentleman who covered Olympics for us, Alex Marigo, said when you see it in person, it's a whole different thing. And like 12 feet in the air, when her feet are 12 feet in the air and her head is like 15, that is a whole different game. And I think my favorite in person is basketball. It's just constant movement, shorter than soccer. You too. I think so. And I have friends who are basketball players, and I just really, the athleticism is well, in many sports, all sports. So I think so. Having been a former swimmer, that's exciting at the Olympic level to watch them get so excited. Boy, that's a tough one, Chris. All right, you know what? I'm going to defer to you on that, but I see basketball got a real high from you. That's a big deal.
Yeah, no question. Basketball is definitely my favorite sport. Like I said, I'm a Cook County baby from Chicago, Illinois. My mother and father were born and raised there. I wasn't raised there, but I still know I still have a lot of ties to Chicago. Obviously, going back there this past August at the NABJ convention there in Chicago. And I love basketball. I've always loved basketball. I've loved every sport except cricket because I just don't know how the hell to understand it. I don't understand cricket. But every other sport, I'm with it. Every other sport, I'm with it. So totally. I saw the Golden America tour with Simone Biles.
Oh,
If you get a chance to go and see that,
in
please do.
person.
Yes,
Okay.
please do.
You're
Please
you
do.
are not the first to say that. I believe that. Amen. You know, have you ever, so you said cricket, if you could understand it?
Yeah, if I can understand it, that'd be better.
Okay.
I don't understand it. No.
I'm with you. I think I'm gonna have to learn something. I'm gonna have to learn about a new sport. I think, yeah, I think some of the other sports are a little bit slower. Soccer, you have to, the field is so big. While I do love it, and I'm married to a Brazilian, so obviously I watch. We have a lot on in our house. I still think the accessibility of a basketball court and just constantly watching, and then and you by default you're really close, and also being technically from Buffalo. I mean, and seeing Sabres games, hockey's a big deal. My daughter's just getting started in hockey, my little 6-year old. So,
Oh,
gosh,
that's
I don't
awesome.
know. That goes deep. That's a deep question for a few different reasons, but I think we got it covered, you and me.
Love it. I love it. That's awesome. My family lives in upstate New York. They're
Yeah,
about an hour away from Buffalo. So my
yeah.
dad lives up there. So yeah, very familiar with upstate and Buffalo and being up there for sure. This last favorite that I want to ask you is favorite restaurant to eat at. Now, obviously, you being in Chicago, I'm a huge deep dish person, so I love me some deep
Yeah.
dish pizza. They also have good bratwurst there in Chicago
Oh,
as well, as I know about. Please, as a foodie, I do know good spots. Don't get me wrong, because I'm
yeah.
familiar with Chicago, but give me a spot that might be underrated there in Chicago that I should check out.
Well, as I said, I have a 6-year-old, so the past few years haven't been as many because, well, I have several favorites. I mean, there are places that I started to go when I first got here, and if I had a fancy night out, La Scarola, the oldie but goodie with those. He's got the grilled calamari is out of control. The deep dish pizza that we go for, and if somebody comes in from Brazil, from New York, from Miami, wherever where our family is coming in from, we always stop at Lou Malnati's.
Yep,
There's
yep,
Giordano's nearby as
yep.
well, but
I
Lou
know them too.
Malnati's. Um, and then there are a handful of Mexican restaurants, and you may or may not know it, a teeny tiny little hole in the wall called Doña Nati's. I love that place for, yeah,
Okay.
just pick up. Um, and then there's, boy, there's so many. I don't want to give like props to too many any new places. A friend of mine owns one, another one has been there for, I mean, I'm going to meet up with my friends who are coming back to visit at Gibson's. It happens to be close to my daughter's school, and it's like
Awesome.
just people watching. So when you say where I like to eat, like where I like to eat inside the restaurant is different than where I would just pick up from, right? But we try and spread the happiness because there are so many places in Chicago that are underrated. I'm just gonna say it.
True.
My sushi go-to has been the same one I've been going to for 22 years, 24 years. I used to go there several times. It's Kamahachi on Wells, specifically the one on Wells.
Mm, okay.
Um, and then for gosh, that's too tough. I do you have a favorite? Can you nail it down to one?
Well, you said the two deep dish places. Those are my
Yeah,
places that I love to go. Because the sauce there is just amazing. You can eat it with a
unbelievable.
fork.
A little
I'm
sour. Yeah,
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love those two places. And anytime, and when I went back there in August, I went to Geo's. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Definitely when I come back there, I'm gonna have to say hello to you in person. That's for sure.
please.
I have to. And I'm definitely gonna try some of those Mexican food spots because I have not been to those, for sure. So I love Mexican food. I do.
Oh,
So definitely.
yeah. There are several, but that one I can't nail down, and I'll probably also get yelled at by my Telemundo colleagues because they're honestly we kill it. Everybody else can just say
Okay.
goodbye. We kill it here in Chicago.
Yes,
Um,
you do.
there are there are a couple. Well, there are a couple Brazilian places, not many, but believe it or not, our biggest, our our favorite with the Brazilian husband was actually Texas de Brazil, the one that was downtown. They had such great cuts of meat and picanha, of course, and short ribs. But it, that's our favorite place to go because he eats about 5,000 calories a day. He's a personal trainer, nutritionist, and to feed this guy, it's like it's another income. Really, that's why he works as much as he does.
I
Um,
understand.
but we're very interested in eating healthy too. So that's another reason it's hard for us to go out and not have a lot of seed oils in the food. So
Sure.
it does have to be kind of a special event.
Okay.
And then we have but we also like to keep everybody in business, right? So, and this is not a city where you can, be stingy on going out to eat because you're going to miss out on too much, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your Texas de Brazil sounds a lot like our Fogo de Chao,
Oh,
which,
same.
okay,
Sisters.
same.
Texas
Okay.
has, yeah, we like the preparation a little bit better, but Fogo, yeah, it just
Okay.
is same idea.
Got
Texas
you.
has a wonderful salad bar with artichoke hearts and some things that you might not get at Fogo, but yes, really good. I shouldn't be giving anybody, too many prompts or taking away. So they're both great. Let
Absolutely.
me be very
Absolutely. I love it.
diplomatic here.
I love it. I love that. Let's talk about your day to day, Natalie. As you
Yep,
know, as journalists, our days are never the same, right? When I worked in
never.
publication, I was covering different sports. I was writing different stories, editorials, previews. Every day was different, right? And nothing was never the same. We don't have a traditional schedule either, right? We don't work
No,
8 to 4, 9 to 5, and we clock out. Woo, let's go to happy hour. No, hell
correct.
no, that's not going to happen with our schedule.
Holidays and weekends
Um,
are just as good for news as any other day of the week.
Absolutely, right? So tell me about, and I'm sure you've worked every kind of shift that there can be worked in your time frame, but tell me about your day to day now and what you do and to prepare for that.
Well, there's not really any time off, as I said. So, I mean, our day to day. So today, this is the day of the week that I anchor the shows. Today we didn't have a linear show at 5 and at 10 o'clock linear. The traditional way that you see TV. I think most of your listeners and viewers know that. And then at 10 o'clock, we'll go on after Sunday night football. So that's fun. On weekdays, and so that's the most exciting, I think, from one of your listeners' point of view, would be what I do on the day to day when um, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing. I'm constantly sending in story ideas or tips that I get for whoever is, on the clock to be able to check into. Hey, I got a tip about this. I'll usually send an email to our assignment desk or somebody who I know might be following the story, and vice versa. So my shift is 2 to 11 p.m., 2 to 10:30 p.m. Uh, Monday through Thursday right now. Excuse me. So what that means is, well, I get to pick up my daughter from school on Fridays, which is really nice. But it means that I start my shift at 2. But for
Mhm.
example, last week on my Thursday shift, I live very close to Navy Pier because we moved closer to work during the pandemic for reasons like this. So there wasn't as much of a gap between the time I started and when I left for work. So we were trying to buy more
Absolutely.
time, with our kid. And
Sure.
my husband's clients are all around here too. So um, the day starts with an editorial meeting, and most shifts do, except for the 2 a.m. shift, which I've also worked as well. 2 to 11,
Right.
2 to 10 a.m. is something else. Very hard to get out of bed at 1 in the morning for that shift. But to be done at 10 a.m. is always really nice. If you can keep yourself up and prop yourself up with an eye, your toothpicks or with your cup of coffee, to be able
Hmm.
to enjoy the day when it's, daylight, and go to bed at 8 o'clock at night to get up for the next day at the latest 8 o'clock on that shift.
Sure.
It's tough. It's a real grind, but it's a lot of my friends with young kids really like that shift, because then they get to pick them up from school, and they, go to bed basically at the same time as their young kids. But when it's not, for example, when I first got here and I was anchoring the weekend morning news, it was very difficult. And our desk was a little less forgiving, or maybe we didn't have as many people, but there were weeks when I was doing the 2 a.m., 2 p.m., 9 a.m., and I would have
Wow.
random days off in one week. So things
Okay.
have changed a lot. We're much more conscious of like how that affects somebody physiologically and mentally. And
Sure.
like there are days you just don't know, what day is it? I'm not sure when I'm supposed to be working. And that's a grind. But typically these days, especially, we are very conscious collectively, everybody in the business, about when, people do shifts. Are they working too long? Is there, and even by contract, you can't, have your shift start at a certain time after you've done one. So there's the 2 a.m., 2 p.m., 9 a.m., there's a 10 to 6. There's a different shift of, and there's never, somebody's weekend. I'm like, what's your weekend, to any random person in here? And they'll be like Tuesday, Wednesday, or, Friday, Saturday, or whatever it is. So you know how
Right.
this goes. What's your
Absolutely.
weekend? So you get really you're very conscious of the people around you. You never say, like, on a Friday, you won't be like, hey, yay, it's Friday, because half the people around you are going to be like, it's my Wednesday, thanks a lot, but
Right.
go
Right.
enjoy your happy hour, as you were talking about. Like, those are unheard of for any of us. Probably good health wise, but yeah, and like, I was trying to make a play date this morning with some of my daughter's friends and moms, and they're like, oh, well, can't you do this? And I'm like, well, no, I'm actually going to work right now. But and,
Right.
they
Right.
usually get it, but then they always forget, and they're like, gosh, your schedule is so difficult. I'm like, not really. You get used to it, right, Chris? I mean,
Absolutely.
you get used
Absolutely.
to it.
Life of a
And
journalist.
a life as a journalist, and frankly, now, I'm here. I am in this. I'm in this interview. I told the producer, I said, obviously, if there's an emergency, you come over and let me know. But for now, you're laser focused. It helps you become very focused on what you're doing, and to
Yes.
set your goals, and to stick to your plan, whatever that may be. So a day, like, if I'm reporting, we'll go to that editorial meeting, and we will determine what stories need to be covered, who's already covering them from the day shift, and this is just on my night shift. What I need to do to further the story. Do we need to talk to family? Do we need to talk to the mayor? Do we who whatever the story is?
Sure.
And then also make sure that we're doing, like, the Veterans Day story for, this. I'm sure that'll be on the list for tomorrow. We actually did one as an NFL veteran story today that I brought up to the meeting at 9. So my shift started at 2, but I was here at 1:30, and I was on a meeting at 9 a.m. to make sure that I could help, contribute to what was in the 5 and 10 o'clock show, or whenever we go on tonight. So you're constantly, coming up with or contributing to, with what Yesterday I was completely off, but I was contributing with pictures that were given to me from a victim's family on another story. I was, sending emails, calling the desk. And so, when it was convenient for me, they don't make you do this, but it's in our blood. And, and you know that somebody else is going to miss out on this, another reporter, or, the anchor,
Absolutely.
or the entire show, if you don't do your job and keep following up. So there's never really a break. But back to my point about the yoga, that 1 hour a day, whatever days I do yoga, I have to turn my phone. I've only been able to find that one way to turn it. I don't even turn the phone off. That's a lie. I put it in my locker, but that's when I detach, you know, because it's by us when we're sleeping, you
I
know.
no, I understand. I totally get it.
You
'Cause I'm the same way. When I was
okay?
definitely with the publications, there would be a time where I would go to the gym and I would put on the do not disturb, and I would
Yeah,
just have music on, and I would
sure.
just work out. I like to work out. I don't want you calling me if you're burning. If you're on fire, stop, drop, and roll before you call. Just don't call me because I'm not gonna be able to help. I'm not gonna be able to do
Okay.
nothing for you. That's just what it is. So I totally understand that. I really do. It's a great segue though, because I want to talk to you about mental health and work-life balance. As you talked about it before, when you sometimes try to get these play dates together, other people that are in other occupational genres don't understand the life of a journalist schedule, right? It's very difficult for them to understand, like, or not. I wouldn't say difficult, but it's just hard for them to remember that, each week and each
Yeah.
day is just different, right? So for me personally, working the same kind of shift that you did for many years, it was very hard for me to be like, okay, I'm gonna go out and try to have a good time at midnight at Tuesday, 12 o'clock at midnight. Like, come on now, ain't nobody out doing that. So it's very tough for me to do that. So, but a lot of our colleagues, Natalie, words like burnout, overworked, underpaid. I know you heard this before. I've heard it multiple times. My colleagues, some of them have veered off into different occupational jobs, and
Mhm.
I'm sure you know some colleagues as well. How do you maintain good mental health with yourself, being a mom, being a wife, being a anchor reporter, one that wears many hats at the job, but also still be able to live life like Natalie Martinez should. When she's often not there, because it seems like you're a wonderful woman to be around, got friends, family, and all that, but you also seem like you work pretty hard too. So how do you manage the work-life balance and also keep good mental health?
Well, I'm just going to play right into the title. I work hard, but I try to play harder. And the times that I have off, even if I'm working 6 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
But this last year and a half, yoga has been my space because I have not been able to find anywhere to get rid of that phone. That's the only way to disconnect. Even when we go to Turks and Caicos, a favorite place, we've been saving up for it, not just, financially, but also time wise, your vacation time, saving up for it. And I'm going to try to disconnect. But even my husband knows, he asks me, can you just, tune out for a little bit? I have to check my email so that what if a reporter's waiting for something that an email that I get that's going to make their day about 100 times easier, that's got whatever tip or information or story or phone number that they need. So I just check it once
Sure.
in the morning, once at night. Um, and then but I never tune out. So to answer your question, what I do is I find something that works to help me, you know, tune out for just that hour. Because if you're not doing it when you're sleeping, I mean, literally, I felt my phone go off today at 6, and I'm like, I'm not going to get that. But I'll check it first thing, when I do get up at 7:30, because that hour and a half will make a difference in how I go about my day, the attitude I
Sure.
have with my kid and before work, the, attitude, how I can, tap dance if things go wrong on the set during a live show without a co-anchor to bounce off of, right? So,
Mhm.
it just kind of like sets my mood. I'll try to do that. And this is so corny, but when I'm home alone and even when I get back from yoga and I'm getting ready for the day and I go through my emails for the second or third time and return phone calls, I also turn on, and it's very specific. My husband said to me yesterday, he goes, that's very specific. I'll tell Siri to turn on soothing, relaxing meditation spa music. And then it comes up whatever the station is that Sirius finds for me is the best. And it's like massage music, but I laugh because it is very specific. But if I say it in that
Yeah,
order,
yeah.
Siri finds the best station for me. I do that. I do classic jazz stations. I'll do bossa nova, Brazilian bossa nova. That is really
Wow.
somehow calming to me. I don't know if you ever do that, um,
No, I
it's
can honestly say no on
because
that
we
one.
have so much noise coming in
I
that
feel you.
if the noise is going to be going on, I want it to be something calming. And then I'll stretch. I feel uh, sometimes just so we moved closer to work, which is also closer to the water, sometimes zoning out on like one wave going across, the water. Sometimes that's if I can, find myself in a quiet space, even if it's for 15 minutes. I can hear my phone going off, but sometimes if I can just avoid it for 15 minutes, I think
Sure.
that's really good. The station was really good here at NBC5. We had, especially after elections, very tense. The lead up to that, physically and emotionally, and just covering it was a lot, right?
I
And the
bet. I
station
bet.
recognized that this is a big deal. So they gave us, they had a masseuse come in. I have his card right here. He's a former boxer, hands of steel, by the way. But
Mm, mm.
they recognized, and it was 10 minutes a person, but they recognized that, to your point, you do need it, right? And then I booked a lunch with somebody I hadn't seen in a long time. And one, to check up on her, but two, to just kind of, reconnect, I guess. Do you do that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You definitely have to, because there's people that you won't go and see for a while. So you definitely got
Yeah.
to reach for sure.
Is that what you do to,
Oh,
you know?
for my you talking about my mental health? What I do? Is
Yeah.
that what you're asking me? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So I do a plethora of things, Natalie. I like to work out. I really do. The main thing, I
Mm-hmm.
work out about 3, 4 times a week. I like to get into the jacuzzi, and I like to have my
Yeah.
quiet time. So I get in the jacuzzi, I get that quiet time, let the bubbles and the hot water hit me, and I just think about the week
Yeah.
ahead, whether I have to do substitute teaching, or whether I have to do a story, or whether I have to do sales. I'm also in master's school. I'm getting my master's next May. So I just break. Thank you. I break down the week of what I have to do.
Yeah.
Think about my mother who's back home in Georgia. If she needs anything, I'm there for her. So I give her a
Mm.
call, make sure. Same with my dad up in New York. Give him a call, make sure that he's okay. So it's just kind of my relaxation of what I like to do at least 3 times a week. And then what I also do is
Yeah.
I write poetry
Do
as well.
you? I love that.
I
Oh,
write
that's
poetry as well.
nice.
I like to take walks. Well, not now because it's cold as hell outside. But
No.
in summertime, I love to take walks and be able to listen to my music too and just blast out. So yeah, that's what I like to do for sure. To kind of get my mental health going because I'm here all alone and I'm a
Yeah.
huge family person. So I like to be able to take that time out to just think about things, think about again my why of doing what I do. Understand that this is just temporary because I'm wanting to move up into a bigger market. So I just want to continue to work hard, get my master's degree, and then we'll go from there.
And you can always pivot. You can always pivot, especially at this point. You've got so many good things going for you that wouldn't be out of, that wouldn't be unreasonable to think, you
Mhm.
know what, this could even be the best time because you're good at several things and you enjoy them.
Yes,
So
indeed.
that's such a bonus. I did forget about that. I do make calls to my older aunts, make sure that they're okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You got to because
Yep.
we work so much and family is so important and
Yeah.
you're not always around every bit of family all the time. And you never know when things can happen to them and to your loved ones. So it's always important to at least reach out every single week to just see
Yeah.
how they're doing. And I do that with my moms, my dad, just personally, because I just want to make sure that they're okay. And if they need anything, then I'm there. So that's just what it is.
I thought of one more thing that
Talk
you
to me.
could do. Plan a trip. That's
Mm.
another thing I do because you're doing it
I
right
am with
now.
the cruise for sure. The cruise for sure. I'm definitely going to do another cruise in 25 for sure. I do have some things on the horizon as far as there's a podcast fest going on in Orlando because I'm trying to definitely become more outgoing with my podcast and be able to build more of a connection with it, more subscribers, more audience with it, and turn it into a business. So I want to be
Yeah.
around other people who actually do that as well. So the one way to learn is to be able to go and do that. I am going to get back out there in the field and start seeing if there is, because I do like this freelancing thing. I like to be able to choose what I like to do and be able to cover what I like to do, and I like something
When,
as well. So I do like it, but I want to kind of test the waters and see what I'm made of because I also
yeah.
have a lot on my resume that I've done in the 6 7 years that I've been in this industry. So I definitely have some trips planned. One of them to Chicago, by the way, because there's something going on in Chicago that I saw in March. They're having something going on in Chicago. I think it's March
Let's
31st to April
see.
3rd, and it has something to do with another podcast expo. So
Let
I'm
me
planning on
see.
being there and I think it's called Evolutions. I think
Oh,
that's called. But it's in Chicago, and I definitely want to go there. And like I said, when I do come, I'm definitely gonna have to say what's up to you and hi to you for sure.
yeah. It's come by NBC5 Chicago or even for one of our many shows. I mean, we have shows
That'd be
all
amazing.
day and all night.
That'd be amazing.
And we also have NAHJ here this summer. So I'm in a huge leadership role again this year. I'm doing all the broadcast tracks. But it's not just relegated to National Association of Hispanic Journalists. As you know, we many times do unity with NABJ, AAJA,
Yep.
NLGJA,
I
AAJA.
may be interested in that. I will
Telling
because
you,
NABJ's in Cleveland next year. Next year
yeah,
they're in Cleveland. So
good.
you guys are going to be in Chicago next year.
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
it's July 9th through the 13th, I believe. And there, I mean, it's open to all. It's just specifically, it's those of us Hispanic journalists happen to be running it, but it's always open to all. And I always tell my students that too, just because that's the local one. We are open. That you and I met, I think, at NABJ initially many moons ago. I think we actually met there once, very briefly, I believe. Maybe I'm
Okay.
wrong.
We might have because I met so many people, but
Yeah,
because
but that's the
it was
beauty.
familiar. It was familiar. That's for sure.
But that's the beauty of it, right? I mean, you can't get, especially if any of your viewers and listeners are new to the business or want to get into the business, think
Mhm.
about it. When are you going to get in front of all those news directors and the people who can make decisions, decision makers in the
Yeah.
business? There's nothing like that. Those convention, if somebody had told me as a young wannabe journalist, even those last 2 years of college, I didn't know until I was already in the business, fortunately. But that's another thing. Besides those internships, get to those conventions because it's the money and students pay like half the price, as I recall, right?
As a member, because I'm a graduate student, I'm still paying the
Yeah.
graduate student member fee. It's not that much. I think it's like 40 some dollars that I pay,
Oh,
and
oh,
it's literally not a whole lot to be able to join. I know I'm a part of NABJ, but I could only imagine NAHJ is the same. Has to be the
yeah,
same amount.
35 to become a member. Then the convention, I think, is as low as 130. But to see all these news directors, one flight isn't even $130 or whatever it is now.
Not just
Um,
Chicago, that's for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Not
So
just
now you have all
Chicago.
of them coming here or wherever it is, whatever this year it happens to be here. So I just
Okay.
think that if anybody's listening and that wants to you know, get in, that is a great way to do it. And I hope that
Awesome.
people do. And then, you know what? Worst case scenario, you find out, at a convention that it's not for you, but you end up going somewhere else. I have a lot of students who think that they want to be in journalism, but somehow, a couple wanted to, they want to do a sports podcast. Another one wanted to be an actor. I'm like, this is not, you can get your SAG-AFTRA card, but the part on TV is this much. The
Right.
rest
There's
is the
so many different
hustle.
roles.
Yeah, the hustle is the work, and that's what you got to put in. Um, and yeah, if people are willing to do the work, they're going to do just fine, don't you think?
Absolutely, no question about that.
Across the board.
Now that's a great segue again because now I want to ask you about advice, right? Because
Hmm.
we're talking pretty much you gave some advice on there what people should do, but what is some advice that you would give an individual that wants to do the job that you do or wants to be in this journalism field, right? We talk about just so many different jobs within this field, whether it's within sports, news, entertainment, whatever genre it is. What is
Yeah.
some advice that you would give someone that's either a postgraduate, an intern, or maybe somebody that's a little bit mature, like myself, or
Switching
someone that's
fields.
right? You know what I mean? So switching fields. What kind of advice would you give?
I actually did give that advice to somebody who's now on a huge network doing finance, and it's different for each person. It depends what experience they have. If it's no experience, do the work. Don't be afraid to work. Hustle, figure out a way and make it happen. Don't sleep on it. Make it happen. Nobody's going to do it for you. Make it happen. If you see it, if you can think it, if you can dream it, if you can get yourself a mentor like myself or somebody who's already doing it, that's the way to go. I have several mentees, people that I've never, so one young lady I've never even met who I'm constantly, she'll send me every once in a while from school. She sent me reels that I would look at from, now she's, well into her first job. I have a couple students, one who went to New York Times eventually. I mean, there's something in it for everybody. What's the worst case scenario that could happen? You take a journalism class and you become a better writer. You learn how to write tight. Oh, super. Now you can do you can do anything. You can write a really
Yep.
good email to your boss in finance or wherever it is, right?
Absolutely.
Um,
Yes.
so you know, and don't expect a handout. Don't the this is oh my gosh, it's such a turn off to want to try and help somebody who says, "Can you send me a link on how to do that? Can you send me a link on their contact information?" No, I cannot. What you can do is you can Google it and probably find a way. That is
I'm,
part
I'm
of getting
sorry. The
the
way you
job.
said no. I'm sorry. My
I
bad.
want to, and so I'm not helping if I'm sending you a link, am
You're
I?
right.
Right?
You're right.
And
You're right.
and in the most diplomatic way possible, I'm going to tell you, no, I cannot, and that is part of your job. And whether this is a student or somebody else, I had somebody writing to me within the past 4 months asking me to do just that, and I said, respectfully, no, but this is part of you getting your job. I'm not, it's just too simple these days to look something up and to find the information or to even if to Google you, and I can look up, I watched some of your podcasts before when you first had asked me, and then just even earlier today. I mean, it's just so simple. Everything's at our fingertips. So if you're asking me to do even the slightest, easiest thing for you, well, how are you going to be at the job when you're required to do some real work, right? So
Right.
I would say do the work. Just don't ask for a handout or don't ask for too much help until you need it, because then people are less likely to want to help you when you really need it. So if it's just to find a phone number or to a go-to person, do that first, and then try and ask for help, because I think asking for help is so important right now. There are people like you and me and who are out there who really just want to bring in some good talent, whether it be in front or behind the camera, whether it be in sports or news, whether it be even in teaching, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it, I still say, enjoy the journey as much, because once I'm not excited about or challenged or, competitive, out on the street, then I know, pretty much done with this. But I get the fire under my butt. I got first to the scene on a huge breaker on Thursday. Um, and so I was thinking, okay, it's still there, and
Love it. I love
um,
it.
I I I think that if you do your own work, and if you are, I guess, self-sustaining, if with all the things we have out there, I think you can really shine just by showing people, hey, I can do this. I'm not going to need you until what really hits the fan. And then when it does,
Sure.
let's work on this together. And then I'm going to use your expertise. Don't use somebody's expertise that you with information you could get from Google, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
because time is too precious right now. Time is too precious.
Absolutely.
And I think for people to remember, you can always pivot. You don't have to be locked in. I never knew I was so excited about teaching until I took a little pivot, when I actually spoke to a class. Somebody asked me to speak to their class, and I had been speaking to high school classes and college classes here and there. But once I had kind of looked at it from the perspective of, oh, I would kind of like to do this, more often. I like helping, but then I had to create a curriculum, and then you know, classes are a lot. I realize I can't do it every. The classes are the fun part. I can't do it every quarter, but that one
Right.
quarter in the spring when I can do it, I throw myself into it. I read every single thing that that my students turn in because I want them to get better. And I take their first in-class writing and their classmate profile, and I
Mhm.
use it as a litmus test. I literally print it out and put it beside me while I'm looking at their fresh story. And then it's very easy to tell if the AI was used or something like that. But it also is helping me make sure they become better writers. And I tell them at the beginning of class, I don't expect you to be, to win a Murrow Award or, go write for the New York Times after this. What I do expect you to do is become a better writer because they can use that anywhere, but
Absolutely.
specifically in journalism, right? I mean, it's so important to be able to express themselves and write tight. And be a critical thinker and think, outside the box when necessary, but be very focused when writing, you know radio, TV, print.
Yeah.
You can go on a little bit more, but
Yep.
it's so fun, it's so exciting, and there's so much out there, and it's so important right now.
Totally. I agree. I totally agree. And you make that was a terrific answer, by the way. You gave great answers so far, and
Thanks.
it's been
I
amazing.
speak
You're
from the
amazing.
heart.
And I love that. I love the realness. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, Natalie, is because there's an A side and B side to this. The A side is what we do, right? And sometimes people look at the A side and they think it's glitz and glamour, right? They see the beautiful anchor like yourself or the reporter on TV. They look at you and then they graduate, and I want to be on TV. And they don't understand the behind the scenes of what you
Sure.
have as far as work goes, as far as the team goes, as far as helping out, but people who help you out, right? Or people who
Hmm.
you help out. They just don't know that. But there's also a B side. The A side is all that great stuff, and they don't know that. But the B side is you have to be able to understand, okay, if this is the life that you want, you may miss some holidays. You may miss some time with your family. You may have to work really strange hours. You may have to do some stories that you might not want to do. It might not be favorable to do. And that's the reason why I wanted to do this podcast is that for people that do and will watch these episodes, you have to know the A and B side from that
Hmm.
perspective when you make a decisive decision to be in this industry. It's a beautiful industry to be in, but there is no half stepping in this industry. You either all in or you ain't in. And that's just
Hmm.
the way it has to be. Like you cannot get in this industry for the wrong reasons. And that's something that I try to advocate to the young boys here, to the girls and boys here in high school and maybe in college as well. Like if this is something that you want to do, you have to do it for the right reasons.
True.
And the next thing that I tell them is in this industry, and I pretty much invoke this in my life, but in this industry especially, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And people look at me and they kind of like, what do you mean by that? But I mean, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like there's
Yeah.
gonna be days where and things and situations that come up that might not be of comfort to you. And in this industry, you're gonna have to suck it up because
Yeah.
you're gonna have to do it. You're gonna have to do the work and put the work in because every day is not gonna be a comfortable day in journalism. That's not what
True.
journalism is about. So
Very true.
if you understand those two things, as I always try to advocate to the young ones out here, you're gonna be good. You're gonna be going in a good direction. I can't tell you all because everybody's journey is different, so I can't tell you everything what's gonna happen. But I can tell you that if you have those two things in your mind, it hardens your character for one, and character is big time in journalism and in life. Period. It hardens your
Yep.
character when you go through adversity and you overcome it. So that's what I particularly like to tell my young boys and young girls here that ask me questions about covering games and doing stories. Um, yes, be comfortable being uncomfortable, but
Yep.
also understand the A and B side before you make a decisive decision to want to do this.
Amen. I do believe that. Yeah, you'll be. If I was just telling somebody today who told me about I don't even know if well, I guess I can say it. She got a bit of a promotion, and she said she was nervous, and I said, but that's good. That's growth,
Yes.
right? When you're
Yes.
nervous about something, whether it
Mhm.
be something small or something big, like, with work. But if you're not nervous, then you're, to your point, you're comfortable. That's where mistakes are made sometimes. That's where mediocrity lives. That's where it just the same old thing happens. But when you're uncomfortable, woo, that is opportunity to shine. And that's
It
I
is.
love to see anybody shine. That you can see it in their in their presentation. Whether when I say presentation, I mean even if they're just telling you something. I did
Yep.
this, even with my 6 year old, it's a perfect place for that to happen. Um, when you are uncomfortable, you're also growing. And when it's
Without question.
hard, you're growing. So I'm with you 100% on that. 100%.
I love
I'm
it. I
not saying
love
it
it.
always has to be. Sorry.
Right. Right. No, no, no. And you're absolutely right. But I just being in this industry for now a few years, doing a lot of print articles, editing photos, going to games, covering games, talking to people for sports, you definitely have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I came to a town that has 14,000 population.
Okay.
I was the only at that point in time. I was the only African American male ever hired at this publication. So you go into a town that one doesn't know much about the ethnicity as far as in the publication. They're not used to it. They're not used to seeing the faces covering their boys, their girls, their
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But my job is not to worry about that. My job is to worry about the story and get people's stories out. My job is to be a writer and a journalist first, and not to worry about
Yes.
how uncomfortable that is, because it doesn't matter if I was doing journalism on Mars or whatever place that didn't have as much ethnicity. My job is to give the 411 and be an advocate for the people. And sooner or later, that thought process of what people say, I'm different, and oh, we never saw you here before, sir, that will go away. It wouldn't
Yeah.
matter
Yeah.
because you're doing a good job. So,
That's right.
um, so before I get to this next question, because we're almost going to get to this or that, which is my interactive game, I want to tell you this.
Okay.
Um, I would like to tell you and be transparent. The reason why I left my publication was because I had a boss that called me into the office, and he told me, he said, "Hey, Chris, you're doing a better job, with journalism." I said, "Okay, thank you." And then, but he said, "You still below average." And I was like, "Okay." And he said, "Below average with your writing, below average with your photography. You're still below average." And my thought process was, okay, since I'm below average, I'm fine with that, with that perspective, sir. So how can I improve to no longer be below average? What is the steps that I need to take to improve as a journalist? Because this is something that I want to do. I'm not going to change and pivot and do anything else because I love this. So what can I do to get better? And he said to me, Natalie, he said these words. He said, "We don't have the resources here to help you grow as a journalist."
Huh. Wow.
When he said that,
How'd you feel? Yeah.
it was time to pivot,
Yeah.
because as a hierarchy in a position in any job, you never want to go to any kind of job where you have to answer to a boss and they're not willing to give you the tools to help you grow.
Mm-hmm.
But then it shows what kind of leader they are. And you can't follow a leader like that. And
And
I'm a
did you
leader.
ever ask, sorry to interrupt you, but I am very curious. Did you ask what if there was any resources that he was willing to get for you? Yeah.
So my next follow-up question was, because my thought process was that doesn't make any sense. So I'm thinking that in
Hmm.
my mind. So I said, okay, so where can you go to get some kind of, resources to be able to help me out? Since
Help
we don't
me.
have any, where can I go? Where can I go do that?
Mm.
And he was like, well, I don't know if I don't know if we can go anywhere to get the resources that, I mean,
Sorry to hear that.
we're kind of short staff here. And this was a person that had 35 plus years in the industry,
Huh.
that was very seasoned. But when he said that, he also said things like, "Don't get the big head," uh, because the community was starting to embrace me, because they were starting to welcome me into their homes. Is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
Our subscriptions have went up since I've been there.
Good job.
The views of our online articles have went up. So I wasn't understanding the attack at
So you
first.
were winning.
We were
Yeah.
increasing our views. Yeah. So I was wondering where was this coming from because he just said it out the blue.
Huh.
And I was like, okay. But then I don't mind that as much as I mind we don't have the resources because that's your job as a leader. Your job as a leader is to provide help to your reporters. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't understand
Yeah.
that. It's like a general manager at your station telling you, you know what? I don't
Yeah.
see.
It's
You're still below
unfortunate.
average, Natalie, and I don't see you
Well,
getting any better. I don't see us helping you out here. Well,
or at
then,
least to tell you what you could do.
right.
I would ask, well, what do you want me to do if you don't have the resources? You tell me.
Well,
I'll
see,
do it. You will do it.
at that point, right? Because at that point, okay, you're asking them, hey, what can you do? Where can you go get the resources? Or I don't know. Well, you just have to read, just read some newspapers
Yeah.
and just and read that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, at that point, it's already been damaged because I'm
Uh,
like, I don't believe in what you're trying to talk to me about. The numbers are showing something different than what you're saying. So
Sorry.
and you know what? That's okay. And that's fine. And this is why I mention these kind of stories because when I have these kind of podcast episodes, I want people to understand know your worth. Know your
Yes.
damn worth, please, because it's important to know that. There are some people in this industry, not a whole lot, but there's some people in this industry that will keep you in a box if you let them. They will
Amen.
keep,
That's
they will
right.
keep, they will keep you
So
in a box.
true.
And if you let them. So you got to know your worth and be able to make those tough, difficult decisions. And they are tough to make, no question,
Yep.
because everybody's situation is different. But you got to also know your worth and know that you're not to be played with. And that was simple with that for sure.
I'm glad that you got out of that situation where you couldn't grow because to me that just sounds like stunted growth. And if you couldn't grow, then you were you were dying, right?
Right, right, absolutely. And I appreciate that. We are now on the portion of this or that. And that is the interactive game that I do with my guests here on the Work Hard, Play Harder podcast. And pretty
Okay.
much I throw things at you and you get to choose this or that. Natalie, are you ready?
Okay. I is it yes. Okay. Make sure you
No.
speak loudly because I've got more people coming and going here. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear me?
Ready.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Popeyes or KFC? Which
Oh
restaurant
my
are you
gosh.
choosing if you got to choose?
We have more Popeyes here, so it would have to be Popeyes.
Okay. I'm rocking with you. We good right now. What chicken wing flavors are you choosing? Barbecue or lemon pepper?
Lemon pepper, I don't like sweets as much on my
Mm,
meat.
okay.
So
So
it's
you
got to
more
be
buffalo. You
I
more the buffalo sauce.
yeah, I like savory, sweet separate. So barbecue to me is I don't I didn't do well in St. Louis or in Kansas City.
Understand. I totally get it. Okay. Do you like your
Um,
wings wet or dry?
that's a good question. I like them dry because I like them crispy on the outside.
Okay. Do you like your wings bone in or boneless?
Bone in, that's original.
Okay, now I'm with you on
Because I
that.
don't know what's in when they're boneless. I don't trust them. Is that weird?
It's different. I don't know about weird, but definitely different for sure. Okay, I'm with you on that. Um, four. These next four have to do with music concerts that you rather attend. Okay, so here we
Mm,
go. Which music concert would you rather go to? Would you rather go see Journey or Aerosmith?
Aerosmith.
I love it. I love it. We starting off really
That's no,
good. We starting
no
off really
question.
good.
Yeah.
Okay. Which music concert would you rather go see? Boys the Men or New Edition?
Oh, well, I'm a woman of a certain age. So boys to men, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you on that. Um, both of them are good now. Both of them are really good.
Okay, no, I know.
They're really good groups. Okay, here we go.
These are tough ones.
They are very tough. Which music concert would you rather go see? Would you rather go see Brandy or Monica?
Oh, good one, Brandy. I got to tell you, I just went to see TLC with Shaggy. Yeah,
Mm,
off the chain. It
I
was
bet it was.
amazing.
I bet it was. Absolutely. I don't want no scrubs. I'm with you on that.
No, and they
I'm with
sounded
you on that.
good, the girls. Even though there were two of them, they sounded good. And Shaggy, forget it. He had
Oh
everybody
yeah.
whining. Oh yeah.
Okay, now let me
Yeah.
find out you can dance a little bit, Natalie. Let me find out.
Oh yeah. No, I'm a classically trained ballet dancer, but dancehall reggae would be my first choice to go out and dance.
Okay, now. Oh, somebody better watch that. All right. I like it. Okay, with this next one is the last music.
Okay.
Hypothetical. Which music artist would you rather go see? Whitney Houston or Janet Jackson?
Oh my gosh, Whitney's pipes. I miss her so much.
Hmm.
Yes. I
Whitney
would
Houston?
like to go see Whitney because I can't.
I
No,
love
and
it.
she's also, I mean, on so many levels, just the best. Just the best. No disrespect to Miss Janet, but yeah, that was her and Luther too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Luther. Oh my goodness.
I'm
Luther was
right.
something else. And I'm talking about chubby Luther. Not skinny.
Yeah, I like him even back in the day. Yeah,
Right. Right. That's what
yeah.
I'm talking about.
Those are
Yes.
two, you won't get that again. I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could throw Gerald Levert in there too. He's
Yeah,
third, but
you can throw them into the mix.
yeah,
Fair,
throw him into the
fair.
mix. Yes,
You can make a
absolutely.
mixtape of those guys.
Absolutely. They're wonderful artists. I love them.
Yeah.
Which sport would you rather play? Badminton
Play?
or bowling? Yes, play. Badminton or bowling?
Oh, badminton drives me nuts. I can't keep track of those darn things. Bowling. They're a little heavier. I got more control. And I actually used to play when I was in Albany, New York. I used to play after work because there was nothing to do.
Yeah, you ain't lying. Albany, New York. Oh my lord.
I love Albany, but it was a healthy way to go out there because there
I
was only
feel
so
you.
many bars you could go to.
Yeah, you right. I know
Right?
about Albany, New York. I got the hell out of there real quick when I visited there one time. Are you a good bowler?
I wouldn't say that. I was okay, but I did a lot of practicing because I was there a lot. I would not say that. And I haven't bowled that actually that's a lie. I bowled at my daughter's fourth birthday party. We had it at Pinstripes. So
Okay.
yes, and Diversity Bowl will go for a few, the last 5 and 6 year old birthday parties that we went to. So yeah, I guess I'm getting a little bowling in. Okay.
Okay. Okay. I
How
got you.
about you?
No, I'm
Okay.
not good at
Okay.
all. I'm better when I have a cold beverage in me, or
Fair.
two, or
Or a
two.
good piece of cold pizza.
No, the pizza ain't gonna do it. No, it got to be
Boneless
the cold
wings.
beverage. Yeah, it got to be the cold beverage because the pizza ain't gonna do it. I'm gonna get tired eating the
Oh,
pizza. When you eat good, you get that itis in you. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna give
yeah,
it. Sure. Okay. Do you like desserts?
I do now.
Okay.
That's been in the past 4 years. Like I said, it's got to be separate though. I don't want anything sweet on my protein.
Right. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
throw out four different desserts, like the four different desserts. You have to choose one of these you'll never eat again. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So here we go. The first one is candy. The
Hard.
second one is cake.
Okay.
The third one is ice cream. The last one is cookies. Which one are you getting rid of?
I could do without cookies
Oh no. Oh.
because cake's got that covered. There are cookie cakes. I got the cookie cake covered. That's
Wow.
considered a cake. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
because candy, I like Reese's peanut butter cups when I'm gonna cheat. Can't do that.
I'm a
Ice
Kit
cream,
Kat person. I like
yeah.
Kit Kat.
I got
Yeah.
a 6 year old, so we're at the beach. I got to get some ice cream sometimes.
Okay, I
You?
could respect that. No, I would have got rid of candy because I'm not giving up. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not giving up my red velvet cake. I'm not
It's
giving up
too
that.
much. I got to
I'm not.
show you. My
Go ahead.
boss, hold on a second. It's everywhere. This is on the table near me. I mean, it's everywhere. It's Halloween. I mean, even when it's not Halloween, it's everywhere. So I would sneak one.
Okay,
I know.
I
I'm
feel you
sorry
on
to
that.
disappoint you.
You did listen. We can't have it all. Okay, we can't have it
Yeah.
all between us. You know what I mean? We're good though. We're good. Do you like potato chips?
I could
Okay,
do
so
without them. Yeah, there are too many seed oils and stuff in there. I am married to a nutritionist and personal trainer, so I could cut that out if I had
okay.
to.
So
But
here
not
we go.
potatoes. Not
Right.
potatoes.
But
Okay.
potato chips. Okay,
Right.
so somewhat you eat them at times, but you can definitely cut them out. Is what
I
you're
can
saying?
cut them out. Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna throw four brands at you because I want
Okay.
to know the one that you would cut out for real. Okay, out of these brands. Okay,
Okay.
so first one is Ruffles.
Yep.
The
Cut it.
second one is Lay's.
Cut it.
The third one is Doritos. The last one, oh, you didn't say cut it there. Okay.
I didn't say
And
that.
the last one is Pringles. Which one are you getting rid of?
Lay's, Ruffles. You can have them both. You? We're not on the same page.
No, hell no. No. We're definitely not on the same page. I would say Lay's. I would say
Okay.
Lay's. For Lay's for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Um, Ruffles is the greatest chip ever made.
Okay.
I don't eat them a lot, but sour cream and cheddar, that's the greatest chip
That's
ever
the
made.
okay. Okay.
Now, salt
Now
and
I know
vinegar,
what to have for you when you are coming to Chicago.
please do. Please have
Okay.
some. Have some lemonade and fruit
And
punch
your
with
Lou
it.
Malnati's.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, let me tell you, the second worst chip ever made is salt
Mm.
and vinegar. Salt and vinegar.
No. Okay, I'm out of here. See you. Bye. I lived in London for a year almost. I was in Buffalo for so long. I have salt and vinegar. I put that on my potatoes and I dip them and I let them swim. So you're gonna have to let that simmer for a minute. I put my French fries in vinegar and just let it sit, and not balsamic, anything but balsamic, malt, white, wine, anything else. Yeah, I know. So now are we friends?
Well, we certainly are when it comes to the deep dish. We're going to go get some pizza. That's all we're going to be able to eat.
Okay. All
So
right.
we just go get some pizza and eat that because the worst chip ever made is Funyuns. That's the worst chip ever
Yeah,
made.
those are, I don't even know what those are. I used to like those, but there was a time, but those can go with chicken and a biscuit now. I'm chicken and a biscuit old.
I like that. That's funny. I like that. Okay. I love asking this next question to journalists, which is an amazing question, I think. But if you did not go into teaching and journalism like you're doing kind of right now, what career path would you have chosen and why?
Is this in a made up world where I have a good knee and I know how to play drums?
Sure.
I would be a drummer.
Really?
I've never played drums professionally or even taken a lesson. Yeah, I went as Cindy, Lenny Kravitz's drummer for Halloween for approximately 3 Halloweens in a row. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
I would be a drummer. Um, or if I
No.
if I hadn't torn my ACL, I would be a professional ballet dancer, but I got too old and big for that anyway. But yeah, I'd be rocking out to Tchaikovsky.
Wow. Look
Yeah.
at you. You would be the female version of Phil Collins in Genesis. That's what
No,
you
uh, but I if I could do, yeah, they're uh, coincidentally both artistic, but and they're kind of like solo. They can be solo things I could do at my own time. I don't have to be part of a team, so I could do it on my weird hours.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
but if I didn't do that, and I also would really like to be a kindergarten teacher. I love
That I can
children.
definitely see. I can definitely see that.
I
Maybe in the near
love them.
future for you. I can see that.
I actually volunteered. Part of the reason I love my 2 to 11 p.m. shift so much is because I go and I volunteer at my daughter's school, and I love um, young children and where their minds are so innocent and ready to learn, and the things they come up with that are, we put ourselves in boxes so much, but when they come up and they say, well, no, they'll tell you something and you're like, oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. And if she can make an argument for something that I'm just used to because I'm an adult and this is how it is and this is how we see it on paper, if she can make an argument for something and say, well, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, you know what? You are absolutely right, you little 6 year
Right.
old self. And she's been doing this since she could talk. And I think kids just in general have such an innocent way of looking at things. it makes me remember, okay, well, this is what we're doing it all for, right? To
Right.
try and, I don't want to get too philosophical, but I love kids. I love their minds being nurtured in a good way. And I just,
Absolutely.
they like me and I like them too.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
You?
What is some advice that someone, we talked about advice you gave, but what is some advice that someone has given you that you hold on dearly to?
Well, I told you one, see a hole, fill it. That's
Okay.
one. And
I
that
love
can
it.
go a few different ways. And also, my mom told me when it was just she and I and my grandmother, and we were it wasn't even affluent, but it was middle class, and we were living in apartments all my life, and it's the reason I don't have a white wall anywhere I live now because it was it was not it wasn't the best, but I would go to my friends' houses and they would have homes or even a ranch or anything that wasn't an apartment, and that's what she could afford, and she was busting her butt, and she was working 2 or 3 jobs at a time, just depends, to make sure that I got what I could. And I stopped complaining, like, why aren't you at my parent teacher conferences? She's like, oh, you always get straight A's and you're always showing up to school. And I stopped asking her for things, like I wanted the Nikes when they had the swoosh was a big thing. I stopped asking her because it was hard for her to answer, and I could see that from a very young age. But she told me when I said, "Oh my gosh, Carrie had this house and her dad they just built it and this and that," and she said, "Well, good grades are money in the bank." So I tell that to anybody who complains to me about, like they didn't get this or that. So good grades got me a scholarship so that I could, apply that to school. And and frankly, the translation has been on so many different levels that I tell my kid at 6 years old, I tell my college students as teens and young adults, good grades are money in the bank. And I do believe that. And I think that anybody who ever has told me, money can't buy you happiness, well, you probably have had money all your life, because money would
Right.
have bought one fewer
Right.
job for my mom, so she would have been able to see me at a ballet performance, or she could have taken off from work to come to a parent teacher conference and know what was happening in school. So
Uh,
I learned to hustle, but that had nothing to do, that was because my grandmother was in a work camp. She was Ukrainian. That was all. There was so much other stuff that helped contribute to that, and I'll never feel bad about not having my dad around until I was older. But I will say that she was absolutely right. I think that was that still is the best advice. Good grades are money in the bank, because those are the years when you can make a difference in your life. You could truly pivot in school, right? That is the only time. Once you start getting into some jam, whatever it is. My jam now is has been my jam for decades, right? But I'm lucky
sure.
in that regard. A lot of people it hasn't been. So I think good grades or money in the bank is a really good one. I want all my kids to kill it at school, and I make it easy for them too. I'm like, you guys just have to show up. That's a huge part of your grade. Why? Because showing up for work, showing up to a basketball game, just showing up, as you know very well, is is a huge part of winning,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's my favorite advice to give, because I think it's true, and I will always think it's true.
I love that. I really do. I think my mother, my mama actually told me some good advice that stuck with me really, really hard. And
Uh-huh.
she was like, baby, if you if you're driving on the road and you driving on the road, you're not paying attention to where you driving and you always looking at somebody else's lane, you're gonna crash. You need to focus on your own lane and stay in your own lane. Don't worry about what the next lane is doing or how fast they going or how fast they climbing up the ladder or why they there and you're
Yes.
not. Stay in your lane and do what you do to the best of your abilities and live with the result. And I remember her telling me that because there was one point I was like, man, I know I could do what he's doing, or I know I can do that.
Yep.
But she's like, stop doing that. You got to do what you do. And after that, I just started focusing on me and got my full time job and my first offer to get there. And I was like, you know what? I started thinking about this podcast. I was like, okay, this is cool. you're right, Ma. I gotta focus on me because if you
Love
focus
it.
on others, you'll just crash and burn, and then
So true.
you won't be able to ride out your lane because you too
Mom
busy stuck with the
knows.
crash. Yeah, Mama does know. She does, and she's one of the greatest women in my life, no question about it. So yeah,
Oh,
she's somebody who definitely has given me a lot of wisdom. Dad has too, but I remember
yep.
my mother told me in that stay in your lane and focus. So absolutely.
That's beautiful.
This has been a really, really dope conversation, Natalie. I mean, listen, your talent, passion, beauty is evident, no question. Anybody that talks to you knows that your expertise in this business is essential to people like myself, your students, and anybody that really is around you, right? So
Thank you.
I love the fact that you're able to share your story, share your why, be transparent with me, give some really good advice and great answers. All podcast episode. I really do appreciate your time. And I want to ask you this last question before you go, and that is there anything else you would like to add about yourself or anything at all before we conclude?
About myself, I think we talked about a lot. I think that we will have a huge conversation when you get here to Chicago. And about myself, what you see is pretty much what you get. You already know that. You can you've said as much, but really, I'm here to help, and I am doing that. That probably makes me feel best, knowing that what I'm doing is helping somehow, and so that's fuel. And so I'll keep going until I run out of steam.
Absolutely. Please do. Please continue to do the amazing work there in Chicago. Yes, we would definitely link up in Chicago. I'm
Okay.
definitely now putting it on my calendar about NAHJ since it is a month before NABJ. So I
Yes,
love that. So I would
exactly.
definitely put that on my calendar. You take care and enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening, and you and I would definitely be in touch.
Watch NBC5 Chicago all day and all night, especially Sundays at 5 and after Sunday night football and all week long. We are here for you, and I'm always available for a story idea. If you think there's something that you need to be covered, you write Natalie.Martinez at NBC.com or follow me on social, and I will get after it for you. Promise
That
you that,
sounds,
Chris.
that sounds wonderful. Take care, Natalie.
Thank you, friend.